So many of you taking this course now will have the TI-84 Plus calculator. Some of the TI-84s operate just like the TI-83s, but the TI-84 Plus in general have some additional functionality, especially if you have one of the newer color versions. And all of the videos were created for the TI-83 users, so this tech boot camp is really to get you up to speed on the changes so that you know how to take full advantage of your calculator. So looking at the TI-84 Plus, of course, you'll have the buttons and screen arranged differently, but the nice thing here is you'll see the screen a little bit bigger on the computer screen. Anyway, so to get you started and how to use this calculator, because at first it's a little bit intimidating if you've never used a scientific calculator before. So first off, to turn the thing on, you've got the on button here. That's easy enough. And when you do, you should be in the home screen here. The home screen just has a single blinking cursor, nothing else available to you. The home screen is where you can do any kind of basic operations. So if you want to do some simple mathematics, you can absolutely do that, just like a four-function calculator. And if you want to do more advanced stuff, you have all of your scientific operations, like for instance, if you want to do cosine, if you've ever taken a trig class of some value, it can calculate those sorts of things. It can do logarithms, it can do all your basic scientific calculator needs. For this class, however, you probably won't need things like logs and cosines and whatnot, but you might need exponents. So if you want to raise, say, some value to an exponent, well, if you hit this exponent key, generally what most of you will see is then a little box that kind of shows up in the corner where you can put in the exponent and it shows up on screen as if you would write it on paper. Others, you might just see like a caret key right next to the 3. That's fine. Yours is operating a little bit more like the TI-83. That's exactly what it means. 3 caret 5 is the same thing as 3 raised to the 5th power. And it should come up with the right answer there. If you want to do square roots, there's a x squared key here, which, well, I guess I'll show you. If you just hit that, it will actually just give you squaring a number instead of raising to a number in general. And if you'll notice in blue, I have a square root. And if you want to get anything, in my case, it's blue, but you might have a different color second key. Whatever that square root color is, it should match this second key color. And so that tells you if you want this operation, you need to press the second key in order to get it. So if I hit second and x squared, it gives me a square root. And then I can type in what I want to come up with the square root of. Now, some of you, again, it may have come up with the square root symbol and then an open parentheses. That's fine. It'll still do the same operation. Just the newest calculators have nicer formatting on screen, so it looks like the operation that you're trying to do on paper. In the end, it doesn't make any difference in terms of the calculation. All right, but that's how we do a square root. Sometimes if you end up with really large numbers, you might end up in scientific notation. So like if you did, let's say 335 raised to the 452nd power. All right. Oh, that was way too big. Tried to make sure I got something large, but went too large here. Let's try 32 raised to the 16th. We'll make them a lot smaller. There we go. All right, so the answer is a huge number, but it comes up as 1.2, some other numbers, and then you have this E24. So the E24 is the same thing as times 10 raised to the 24th power. So we're in scientific notation. And that's just how the calculator displays scientific notation. So you just want to make sure if you run into that, you know what it means. Now, if you want to input something in scientific notation, you absolutely can. You could do like 3.56, and you could write in times 10 raised to the, let's say, 15th power. all right? But it converts it to 3.56 E15. But you can also do it 3.56 with the E. If you do second and this comma, it says EE above it, and that's the same E that it uses for that scientific notation. So you can use scientific notation. Another cool thing is how it stores answers. Every time you do a computation, it stores the answer of that computation. So like say, you want to do like 8 plus 5, and then the result you want to multiply by 3. All right, so if you try and type that in a single line, you run into a problem because it's going to use the order of operations and multiply the 3 and the 5 first. So one thing you could do, just do the 8 plus 5 first, get that result, and then if you hit times, it'll just take the previous answer and multiply that by whatever you want. So this is the result of 8 plus 5 done first, and then times 3. Well, another thing you can do is, because it uses the order of operations, is parentheses. So you could have done 8 plus 5 in parentheses and then multiplied by 3, and that will give you the same result as well. But that would be different than if you use no parentheses, because it will do 3 times 5 first and then plus 8. So just make sure you understand it. It uses order of operations. That's a big thing that students have issues with. Another thing that students will have issues with are negatives. So it differentiates between a minus and a negative. So if I want to do, like, let's say -3 plus 5. Well, first off, if I hit minus, it's going to say answer minus, because it assumes when you do a minus that you're doing, something minus. Yeah. But let's incorrectly type this in, -3 plus 5. It's going to give me an error because it sees that minus as a binary operation, meaning that it needs another number in front of it in order to do something with it. To get a -3, you have to hit this key right below the 3 or next to the enter. That's your negative. So -3 plus 5, this is okay. It will compute that as you would expect. So things to watch out for, but that's the basic operations of this calculator and how to get started in it. So hopefully now it won't be quite as an intimidating thing to get your calculator out and get using it. We won't really need it right away in the class, but it's always good to have a good start. Now, there's one other thing about this TI-84 calculator I want to mention before moving on. Some of you are going to have more strong foundations in mathematics than others. And for those, I would recommend taking advantage of everything the 84 has to offer. For those of you who are a little bit more intimidated by math courses and you want to follow along in my videos exactly as they're presented, you probably need to turn your 84 into functioning just like a TI-83 calculator. And you can absolutely do that, and you can undo it at any point as well. What you would do is hit the mode key, and the things that are different here, and if you have to scroll down to a second page to see all of these, that's fine. But the things that are different, this thing that says Stat Diagnostics, of course, let's just leave that on. There's something that says Stat Wizards. It's probably on by default, but if you want your calculator to function like a TI-83, switch that to off. And then, other thing is the very first item here, should have done it first, says Math Print. So Math Print makes square roots and exponents look like square roots and exponents, but if you want it to look just like a TI-83, switch over to Classic, and now, if I do an exponent like 3 to the 5th power, it just shows up as it would as a TI-83, exactly as it shows up in all of your lesson videos. And if you're the type of person that wants to see your calculator functioning just like the calculator on screen, this is the way to go. Turn those two options off and you won't have anything to worry about in terms of differences. But if you are a little bit more in tune with mathematics and you prefer having it operate just like the 84 and use all the advantages of it, then leave those two options on. All right.